as you set out on like a new journey, maybe you're pursuing your side hustle or you're writing your first song or whatever it is, there are some stages that you're going to go through, or at least these are stages that I've gone through, and there are different hurdles along the way. But if you can keep pushing on and you get over the hurdles, there's kind of a reward at the end of it. So I'm looking at a graph here. I don't know if you knew this, but I used to be a math teacher, and I've been missing math a little bit, so I've been including Venn diagrams and graphs in my videos. So this is a graph of the Dunning Kruger Effect-ish. So this right here, on this axis, we've got how good you think you are. And so that could range from really high, like you think you're awesome, maybe you're a little cocky, or you think you're really bad, and so that would be kind of insecure. So that's what we're kind of ranging from on this axis. On this axis, we have how good you really are. And with most people, how good you really are. This is kind of like as time goes on, because in general you get better and better as time goes on. So over here, if you actually are very good, that would make you an expert. And over here, if you're not very good, that would make you a beginner. So the way the graph starts is you kind of start right here. You're a beginner and you're kind of insecure. And this is the first hurdle that people need to overcome. So they start out, and this is when you first have an inkling. You first say something like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if, or wouldn't it be cool if? And it's just kind of this idea. But at this point, you are so kind of afraid. There's a fear. There's a fear of the unknown, a fear of failure. It's so new. You have so little knowledge. You know you don't have that much knowledge, and you really don't have that much knowledge. The first thing you have to overcome is fear. And you have to take the first step. And you might look at other people and you're like, oh, I could never be as good as them. Or you might even try to deny yourself. You might say something like, oh, I don't really want to do that. That's just some like silly idea that I have. I don't really want to do that. But if that has persisted for years, if you've had kind of this what if for a year now, you've had it for a couple years now, that's a sign that it's not going away. And that's part of your like inner knowing. That's part of your intuition saying, you really got to like go after this. And at first it starts to kind of like whisper, but at some point it starts to yell. And it may start yelling by, like, if it wants you to change jobs, then your other job's going to start getting really bad. So it's going to start whispering really loudly about this thing that you really want to do, and your other job's going to start getting really bad. And at some point, there becomes, like, a force. It's like the pain of staying becomes terrible. And so it's like, I guess I'll just face the unknown because this pain's terrible. But if you don't wait till that point, if you can actually do it sooner, like as soon as you're getting that what if, like you might as well just set off in that direction. You can always go back. You know, you can always go back to the safe thing or whatever it is that you've been doing. If you get over this, you learn some courage. There's so much courage that's developed when you say, yeah, I'm going to try this thing in the unknown. It might not be a permanent commitment, but I'll at least dabble in it. I'll commit to trying it out. And so that's the first thing you get. If you overcome this point, you get courage. If you don't overcome that point, fear compounds itself, and you are giving into a little bit more of a fearful mindset. You may tend to have more fear of the unknown in the future because that's kind of what was stopping you here. So if you overcome this, you might try something else. So you're like, okay, I got this. I might film a first YouTube video. So I could use myself as an example for this. Like, I was nervous, I didn't really want to. So you do it, and you're like, okay, I'm getting better. And this is what people call the peak of Mount Stupid. Because if you see here, you are still very much a beginner. You are not actually that good here at the very beginning. But here you are, you think you're that great. So then I would sit there and I'd be like watching other people. I've filmed one YouTube video maybe, and I'm watching other people's YouTube videos, and I'm like, oh, they did this wrong. They should have titled it this way. This title would have made them do so much better. And it's really easy to critique when you haven't been doing it that long. It's really easy to create something that's really good one time. It's not that easy to create something really good over and over and over and over again, 2 times a week, reliably, forever. So once you've done it once, you're like, oh, my video is so good, my video is so much better than theirs, but you only did it once, and it's easy to create something good once. And so this is where there can be some criticism of other people. It might be in your head. Some people actually do this. This is where a lot of times, if I get certain negative critiquing YouTube comments that they'll say, like, your thumbnail is really ugly or something like that, I'll talk to my husband about it, and he's like, they definitely have a YouTube channel. And I don't even think of that, and I'm like, oh, you think so? And I'll click on it. Sure enough, they have a YouTube channel that's smaller than mine. And that is typically what happens. I've never once been criticized by someone that has a bigger YouTube channel than me, but I've very often been criticized by people that have smaller YouTube channels than me. So this is the point where you start criticizing. And this can lead to some pride. You know, this is really the cocky point. I've heard lots of people do this. Some people do it more mean than others. Some people keep it to themselves in their head, which I would say that's a smart thing to do. So yeah, this is the critical point. And if you can keep going, you kind of learn some reality. So as you keep going, so as I was filming YouTube videos, all of a sudden you have a steep realization that, wait a minute, this 2 times a week, every week, I need to create that quality of video. And it takes editing and making the thumbnails, and I have a full-time job, and all of a sudden you're starting to have a realization of the stuff that comes into it. This is where most people quit. This point, I mean, for one, most people don't even get past this point, okay? The vast majority of people that I know didn't even do this thing. They didn't even step into the unknown. They're sticking with their jobs they hate. They complain to me about their jobs every day, but alas, they have no plan to get out of it, and they're just complaining. So, most people don't do that. This is the next point where most people quit. Now, a lot of this is a mindset thing. Like, keep in mind, look, you've actually gotten pretty good. Like, you're way better here than you were here. You're better. You're just objectively better. But you think you're way worse. And this is where, this was the overinflated view of yourself, and now we have kind of an underinflated view of yourself. If you thought of yourself accurately, it would be like this line right here. Like, this, you're an expert, and you know you're an expert. And so at some point, you just gotta skip past it, skip past this point where you're viewing yourself accurately. And this is the pit of despair. This right here. All of a sudden, the hard work has started to realize. And what is the hardest part about this is not only that it's hard work, but you had an idea of what you wanted it to be. If you wanted to write a song, you had an idea of what you wanted it to be, and then you made this thing, and it's way worse. I mean, if you're a beginner, the thing that you make is just gonna be way worse than what you had in your head. Because in your head, you don't have any constraints. And so that sucks to feel the difference between where you want it to be and where you actually are. That is just despair. It's disappointment. It's so hard. And a lot of people will quit at this point because they're like, oh, I guess I'm just no good. I don't know. I'm just failing. These people's videos are actually really good. You learn what you don't know. Like at this point, you don't know what you don't know. Here, you are keenly aware, like, of all the stuff that you don't know. And at this point, a lot of people quit because they're so disappointed in themselves. They're like, I'm just really not doing well. And so this is where this timeline could be different for different people. You could reach this point pretty quickly. You could reach this point in 2 weeks. I mean, but if you can get over this part, you kind of learn some, I'll call it like faith or maybe hope. To have faith in yourself, you also learn a growth mindset. I'll put GM, you learn a growth mindset. You learn a lot of things if you can get past this point. Because if you can have the faith to keep going and the growth mindset that says, I'm not good right now, but I believe in growth, I believe that I can do better, then this is how you begin the upward climb of doing better. So you have to have some faith in yourself, you have to gain some confidence in yourself. The vast majority of people will quit here, and they will just stay in that criticism boat. They just kind of back it on up to this criticism part because they didn't do it. They're jealous, they're envious of all these people who actually did it. But what they don't realize is all these people went through this thing. But all these people are going through the same trajectory. The people that you think are so great, they were in this pit of despair at some point. Like, it's not a phenomenon specific to you to be disappointed in yourself, to be disappointed with your work. So then this goes on for a while, and sometimes it's kind of hard to kick this, and it just kind of keeps on going. And at this point right here, you've been going through the pit of despair for a while, and you're like, wow, I really wish that I was feeling better about how this is going. I'm really just trudging along. And this period of time can be a long time. I mean, these periods of time are different for different people. And at this point, you're like, why am I still doing this? I still don't think that I'm doing that well. Meanwhile, from here to here, you have improved. I mean, look, for how good you really are, you've improved right here, but your mindset hasn't changed. Your mindset's just still the same. And this is kind of the trudging along, and this is the point where a lot of people quit too. They're like, I'm just not improving. Now, you are improving, but you just don't feel that you're improving. And so from here to here, a lot of people will give up because even if they're like, okay, I'll get better, they're not getting better quick enough. And so this is where, if you can overcome this point and not quit at this point, you learn some patience and some perseverance. And it's at that moment that when you have the faith and the growth mindset, you have the perseverance, you have kind of this grace for other people, and you have like courage. I mean, you've developed so many things. These character traits alone, to me, are worth it. And then you begin the uphill climb of reaching kind of this success. And, you know, what's so unfortunate about they talk about in the Dunning Kruger Effect is when you're an expert and you're literally smarter and better than you've ever been, you're an expert, you don't actually feel better than you've ever felt. It's actually at this peak of Mount Stupid that you feel the best you've ever felt. And so it takes years, and you're probably never going to get back to this point of feeling so good because you've just learned so much. But it's not at this point that people respect you. You haven't earned people's respect here. In fact, no one respects these cocky people that are criticizing people, and they themselves have not gotten in the ring. No one is like raving about movie critics. They're like, oh yeah, I love this movie critic. No, people admire them. People admire the actors, people that are actually putting themselves on the line and being vulnerable. There's no vulnerability in being a critic. So it's at this point that you've earned kind of the respect of people, especially people that have been in your circle for a long time, because they've kind of seen, they saw when you were a beginner, and now they see that you're an expert, and actually that can be kind of hard to reconcile, that this person who came from the same circumstances that I came from is doing way better. They're now an expert, and I just thought they were a beginner. You know, years ago when they were a beginner, people may have discouraged you, but then there's this whole journey that you go through. The other thing that I believe that you get is you get a grace for beginners. Critics don't have any grace for beginners. They're like, oh, you know, you're further behind than me. Look, I got everything figured out. Look at me. But I've never been criticized by someone who's more successful than me. And when you've gone through this whole journey of success and you've had all the realizations, that's when you have grace for the beginners. And usually it's the people that have had these success stories, they've gone through this whole thing, that are the most encouraging to beginners. And it's the people who haven't done it themselves that are kind of discouraging to beginners. Like, oh, I don't know, what about the unknown? So I would just recommend, don't ever take advice from people that are not where you want to be. If they have never overcome their fears, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't do it, there's all this unknown, don't listen to their advice. Listen to people who have stepped out of their comfort zone and follow their advice. So if there's someone that's where you want to be, you look to them. So this is where you get the respect, this is where you get grace for other people. And so I think this trajectory is important to know because it gives you hope if you're in this part. And for me, I would say that I'm like right around in here, I would say personally. And it takes so long. I mean, this can go on for a long time, and so it takes kind of some like mindset work. So what I want to do to kind of make this like stick a little bit more is I found this book. It's a children's book. It's called Trying. And I want to read it to you. On the back it says, attempt what you can't in order to find out what you can. And it's basically this idea in this boy's journey kind of through these stages. And I think there's something really powerful about children's books because they connect with you. They connect with that childlike part of you. So I'm just going to read it to you. So this boy says, how do I do that? I didn't realize I had said it out loud. But the sculptor looked over and replied, you simply do it. Oh no, I could never do that. How do you know? He asked. I just know. I need to find a better way to showcase these pictures. Confused, I walked away. He must be joking, I thought. But as I left, I couldn't help wondering what it would be like to create something so incredible. When I returned, the sculptor looked over at me and asked, how's your sculpture coming along? I'm just here to watch. The best way to give your talents an opportunity is to try, he responded. I'd rather just watch. I can't mess things up if I watch. Ah, yes, he nodded. If you do nothing, it feels safe, but everything stays the same. If you do nothing, there's less to experience, less to love, and less to learn. The fear of failing is the scariest part, and it stops most people from starting. The only way to get to where you want to go is to take a step in that direction, and the best way to do that is to begin. It was all I could think about. Even as I slept, I dreamt of creating beautiful things. I was excited to get started, but as I was working, I realized that something was wrong. With every strike, I felt a little more deflated. With every blow, my disappointment grew. This was not turning out the way I had imagined. Why did I think I could do it? Why had I let myself care about this so much? The next time I saw the sculptor, he asked about my work. I told him it was no good and that I had quit. Why would you do that? He asked. Because it feels awful to want something so badly and then just be disappointed. Yes, the sculptor replied. Disappointment hurts, but failure is temporary and in many ways necessary. It shows us how something can't be done, which means we're a little closer to finding out how it can. When you first tried to walk, you fell, but you picked yourself up and tried again. You were willing to fail over and over and over, and that is why you succeeded. How do I know this? You're standing in front of me now. I had tried and I had failed. Now he was asking me to try again? What good would that do? I had already proven I couldn't do it. But if I was honest, I wanted to believe I could. So even though I worried that I wasn't good enough, I decided to try again. I worked and worked, then worked some more. And while I could see it was a little better, it still wasn't all what I had wanted it to be. I stormed up to the sculptor. See, I told you I wasn't any good, and this proves it. Are you happy now? Yes, he replied. I'm happy. It's good to see you sculpting. But it's terrible. I don't even know what I'm making anymore. You're making progress, he explained. I see talents emerging. I see risks being taken. I see courage. I see caring. I see perseverance. Yes, I see much progress indeed, and I hope you will keep trying. I tried again and again and again. As I stepped back and looked at my work, I had to admit I wished I was better. I went to talk to the sculptor, and he asked me to go for a walk with him. He said, I know it can be hard when things don't turn out as you had hoped, but be proud of your failures. I know I am. Every one of them. I can't imagine you ever failing. He laughed. More times than I can count. But each time you fail, you get a little smarter, a little braver, a little stronger. The truth is, we are all failures. The dreamers, the doers, the creators. Being a failure means you loved something. You cared. It means you stepped forward. You didn't hold back. You tried. That is why I brought you here. He gestured to the statues around him. These are my friends. These are my failures. And I'm grateful for every one of them because they helped me become who I am today. I will tell you a secret, the sculptor confided. I am now much closer to the end of my life than the beginning, and time passes whether we have the courage to do something good and worthwhile, or we don't. It's been years since he's been gone. I will always treasure the time I spent with him, and I will never forget our conversations or what he taught me. When we make it safe to fail, we make it safe to succeed. How do I do that? And I think that story just really illustrates the beauty in failure. That if you don't allow yourself to ever make any mistakes and you don't allow yourself to ever fail, you're also not allowing yourself to succeed. To the extent that you allow yourself to fail, that's also the extent that you allow yourself to succeed. And like I said, you might think like, I don't want to write that book. It's going to take so long. It's going to take a year. It might take a couple years. It's like 2 years is going to pass whether you write the book or not. It's going to be a long time whether you write the book or not. So you might as well just write it. You might as well earn some character traits. You might as well have something to show for those 2 years. So I think the whole message that kind of sums this up is this phrase I heard. And it's success. And that's how you get better. You have to allow yourself to suck and suck. You fail again. And that's how you become a success. And if you don't allow yourself to ever get through the failure, then you can never get to the success. So yeah, I really encourage you to just have a growth mindset with yourself, to be kind to yourself. And, this is probably the hard part. For me personally, I think I was here for a long time. Went through this probably within one YouTube video. I think I had pretty much understood, maybe a couple weeks I had probably understood this. And then this is kind of the long haul that you have to persevere through to get up here. So yeah, I encourage you to take whatever the next step is to overcome the next hurdle. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.